All right, hello everybody. Today we are going to review the third in the trilogy of Rocky movies, Rocky 3. So actually, going back and watching these again, I gotta admit that I enjoyed this one a little bit more than the first two. Um, yeah, so this had some. So this is right after Rocky has won the title. Um, so he goes on a pretty long title defense. It seems that his defense is getting somewhat better. So he goes on a long title defense run, and then this guy. So we have some new characters in this movie. So Mr. T played Clubber Lang. So Clubber Lang is working his way up the rankings as well. He seems to be a younger boxer, even though Rocky, in the general sense, is only 34. So technically, that's really not that old. I guess in boxing years, when some of them probably last up to like their late 30s, early 40s, depending on how well you really do. And so you can kind of see the fame a little bit more in Rocky's sense as he's getting a statue made of himself and so on and so forth. Now his coach, Mickey, seems to have some sort of heart condition, I think, especially now that he would probably be in his 80s, because he was 76, I think, in the first movie. So I don't know exactly how many years it's been uh, that he's been coaching him, but it's been a while anyway that he's been managing Rocky. Um, Probably like a good maybe 3, 4 years, I would say at this point, because he did have quite a long uh, like title defense run. And so now he's kind of putting on he's putting on a charity event with this wrestler who was played by Hulk Hogan or Thunderlips in the film. And that scene was just absolutely hilarious. The fact that it was just seeing Rocky being thrown around by Hulk Hogan or by this wrestler named Thunderlips and having him, yeah, just like whipped around the ring and actually being hurt, and then Rocky actually had to like choke him out and really like give him some good body shots and take off his gloves and actually use like bare knuckles to really hurt him. And then they take a photo. They take a photo together afterwards. So um, he just says that's part of the business, like actually doing some serious stuff. And he was like throwing cops around and going absolutely ballistic and saying that he was gonna take out members of the crowd and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was just, I guess it's kind of like the showmanship of wrestling, right? Some stuff is going to be real and some stuff isn't. It makes sense. And it seems that Apollo Creed has now retired from boxing and has become an announcer. Um, and they introduce him into the ring before the first matchup between Clubber Lang and Rocky. And so Clubber Lang is a very hard hitter, and we know that Rocky's defense, even though it might have somewhat seemed like it improved in the beginning of the movie, still hasn't improved enough to defend against Clubber Lang, and he ends up losing his first fight in a very long time um, by actually getting knocked out. I think this is the first fight that I haven't seen in the Rocky movies that's gone to a decision. So Rocky's becoming, he's kind of been too tough for his own good since the very first film, right? Um, Ever since he was fighting Apollo Creed, he's too tough for his own good and he needs better defense. Uh, so yeah, at the very beginning of the film, at least there was a little bit more action and some new things added into the film rather than just the like copy and paste type deal that we had in the first two movies, where it was just like train fight, like, and then the long build up of just training and then the fight at the end. At least there was something. I felt like this movie had more substance to it anyway. Um, and what was Adrian's part in this movie really? I'm trying to remember exactly, because the second one was the one where, yeah, because I in this movie it ends up being uh, Mickey dies during, like, just after Rocky gets knocked out, and Rocky has to kind of lie to him, and then he goes and trains with Apollo Creed for the film. And at the very beginning, Paulie is having some serious jealousy issues, I guess, because I guess he doesn't feel like Rocky did enough for him over the years. Just gave him some sort of lousy watch, and yeah, even though that doesn't make much sense. But oh yeah, I guess Rocky's kid is a little more grown up now. That's right. Gotten a little bit older, and I don't really think that, if I'm remembering correctly, Adrian wasn't really in the picture that much in this movie. Um, or was she? I'm trying to remember exactly, like, how big of a role. I guess she was at his fight when he got knocked out. So I guess she was there, but she wasn't really like a big focus in this film, if I'm remembering correctly. Hmm. Other than taking care of their son, I guess. So yeah, it must have been at least a couple of years, because I remember his boy being a little bit more grown up in this movie. Uh, so yeah, Apollo Creed after the fight, because him and Clubber Lang kind of exchanged words in the ring before the fight. So I believe Apollo Creed kind of wants his revenge, but he's not going to do it himself, right? He's going to find somebody else to do it, and Rocky's still younger, um, and kind of still like an up-and-coming boxer, even though he's defending the heavyweight title. And oh my God, Rocky gets light in this movie, like, and he learns how to like bob and weave and roll with the punches and dodge, and his defense gets a heck of a lot better, and he's able to kind of do like the rope-a-dope move that Muhammad Ali made so famous, to tire out the other opponent, right? Because Clubber Lang is a bigger guy. He's like 230, 235, I think, somewhere in there. And in the beginning of the movie, I think he was like in the 220s, so he's gaining weight for every fight. And I guess that makes sense at heavyweight. But they were saying that Rocky goes down to like 190, in the 190 to 200 range, somewhere in there, and he looked like a middleweight, I guess, when he fought him the second time, even though he was fighting for the heavyweight title. But I mean, I guess in the long haul of things, Rocky was never really that heavy. Even in the first movie, he was only like 205, I think, and then he goes down to 201, and then he goes down even lighter to like uh, the low 190s. So it was just wild to see that he was going that light for a heavyweight fight. And it seems that all these fights are 15 rounds, which seems kind of wild. Yeah, I don't think a 15-round fight is a thing anymore, like I said in the review of the first movie. So the outcome of the second fight is obviously much different. We know that Rocky is a very good power puncher, and he also obviously has pretty good speed and combos as well. And obviously, after training with um, Apollo, Apollo Creed, he's much lighter on his feet and much quicker, and is dodging the punches and has much better defense. He finally learned to put his hands up in front of his face, so that all the shots weren't, completely just hitting him in the face, because the jab was always seemed to be his biggest problem, and he would hold his hands low. Now, I'm not saying this can't be a good technique. Holding your hands low is actually a thing that I see a lot of MMA fighters do. So I'm not saying it's not a bad technique, because it is hard, if a fighter holds their hands low, to know exactly where their punch is going to come from, because you're not. Most people's gaze is on the head, right? Because most people are headhunting. Um, so when you have your hands low, it's easier probably to jab the body, and body shots are really super effective, because they can knock the wind right out of a person. So yeah, Rocky goes to the body an awful lot. It seems to be kind of his like specialty, especially when he's holding his hands low. And then he gets knocked down a couple times in the second fight with Clubber Lang. But Rocky says he knows what he's doing, and then he starts to actually block the punches properly, and they're hitting off his arm and not the full force going into his head, right? So he's he's as Max Holloway would say, he's keeping his how did he word it? Got to keep his chickens in check or something, because for a while Max Holloway wasn't sparring with anybody, which for some reason did wonders for Max Holloway, which is crazy. So yeah, the second fight goes quite a bit differently. Rocky is actually able to knock out Apollo Creed, or not Apollo Creed, Clubber Lang, and win back his heavyweight title. And I believe that's basically where the movie ends. And also, the song was in this one. The Eye of the Tiger song was in this one. So I guess it wasn't the song didn't really become famous until the third Rocky movie. And then at the very end, Apollo Creed and Rocky are in the ring ready to spar each other. And then the movie ends with them just getting ready to punch one another in the face. So probably they either knocked each other down or one of them knocked the other one down or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I thought this movie was much more enjoyable than the first one. I mean, we still had a little bit of the training session, but I mean, it wasn't as it didn't take up the whole movie, right? Like the first probably like hour of the movie was him with his title reign, him fighting Clubber Lang, and then him having the charity event. That was probably like the first hour of the movie. And the movie wasn't as long as the first two. Like the first two seemed like they could have been cut a little bit shorter. So this one was much I think this one was only like an hour and 40 minutes instead of 2 hours. So they're kind of cutting down the time, which is nice. And I think that maybe made the movie a little better and it wasn't as long and drawn out. So yeah, I did rate this movie a 9 out of 10, and I guess I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.